We are here with Tamara Roberts, the CEO, second generation of Ridgeview Wine Estates here on Wild Wine Life. And you were mentioning accolades, awards. And I think, at least as a person who sells wine on the street and as an outsider looking in, I think that what I've observed over the years is that when you pay attention to the quality of the soil and the little details, it translates to better quality wine. And I was researching how you're very sustainable. You try to use bees as predator insects to go after the bad insects attacking the grapes. You don't try to nuke everything with chemicals. You try to give back to the soil. And that really does translate to stronger, better quality vines. Has that been the philosophy from the start?
Yeah, I mean, I think my certainly my parents' generation were very much reuse. So don't throw anything away. That could be useful. Look after it, and it will keep working, and we don't have to spend any more money. That was their philosophy, and actually, without thinking about it, they thought sustainably. So, for example, when we were bringing in a sprayer, you do have to spray. Unfortunately, it's hard to avoid, particularly in these sort of marginal cool climates. They looked at, they were the first in the UK to bring in a Lipco recyclable sprayer, which has panels that go down each side of the vines, so that only any chemical that doesn't hit the area will just go straight back into the other panel and be recycled around. So you use, I think, about a third of the chemicals that you would use with an air-assisted sprayer. It's much more much better for the environment, but also in terms of economics as well. It's a good thing from that side of things. And I think people tend to forget that actually sometimes sustainability and economics do actually go very well together, even though the upfront cost can sometimes be a little higher than perhaps something else. And so that was kind of around all of the decision making that we made. And what we've seen is, I think over the years, we've just taken that on board, myself and my brother, and really worked on that. And actually during those COVID years, as I'll call them, the pandemic years where we had the lockdowns and everything else, we actually got the business to register and be accredited for B Corp. So we're now a B Corp as well, which gives us within the business the framework for decision making, and so everyone is behind that journey as well. So just looking after our people, our place, and ensuring that we're still a sustainable business at the end of it.
So this is more of a side question. I love the fact that with your finance background, you look at things from a financial standpoint, the return, the long-term effects. When you're explaining that to some people in the industry, how many of them go, finance? How does that work? I mean, do you kind of chuckle sometimes? I think you're only the second person with the finance banking background that I've actually interviewed.
Yeah, I suppose sometimes I forget that I do have that background, and I sometimes think, oh my God, have you not thought of those? Sometimes I get a bit surprised. I'm like, oh, you hadn't thought about the long term, in terms of the capital you need, the return on that, and how long that is, and what that might look like on your cash flows going out. So I think in a way I take it a little bit for granted, and I shouldn't, because I know accountants get really bad. I mean, finance people get very bad names, that we're a bit conservative, and you can't run a business by, don't let an accountant run a business. It's the worst possible thing you can do. But actually, I think this business it's been a bit of a godsend, because we've had some really, really difficult times where you're building stock, and you've got, we're traditional method sparkling, and that's all we do. So you bottle in year one, and you sell in year three. So if you think you're growing your production over those 3 years, you're just storing all this value in your stock, and you're not getting the return for a few years. And it's a real you've got to navigate that really, really carefully and ensure you've got all your stakeholders 100% behind you to make it happen. So I think in a way, I'm happy that I have that background, because I think you could come a proper otherwise.
It allows you to kind of explain to the other members within the company in terms that they understand why you have to be able to hold things for X number of years to, that if we're going to make method traditionnel, this is the quality, this is the long-term return. But
Yeah.
yes, our capital is tied up into this,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think as well, that's, and it does take some explaining. Not everybody gets it. It's quite, well, you have to take it. So yeah, I mean, I think my brother and I have a real good balance. He's very, he's head winemaker, so he's very sort of, I would say, practical. Just loves that whole the process, the quality, the and bringing the blends together and stuff like that. Very, very creative on those sides of things. Great nose, great palate, and then I do all the other bits and just keep everything going. So we work really, really well together, actually, which is nice, because I know a lot of people go, "How do you work with your family?" I'm like, well, we seem to rock around. We seem to do fine together, right? I think it is finding the thing that works, and it will be different for every family at the end of the day.
Now, I thought it was really neat. You have 4 limited edition wines, 3 signature wines, and you have a vintage. In one of your limited editions, your vintage Blanc de Blanc.
Yeah.
That looks like a lot of fun. But your sparkling red reserve is the one that really, really catches my eye. But I'm going to first ask you about your Blanc de Blanc, only because 2006 Queen Elizabeth served it for her 80th birthday.
Yeah.
She toasted with Xi Jinping in 2015. And then I believe King Charles II served it for his coronation. And they don't have a rule, at least not that I know of, like in the United States, where at White House events, only American wines can be served. They can choose whatever they want. They set the rules. So to choose yours over everything that they've been consuming in their cellars, I think really has a true testament to the quality of your products.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. There is no sort of rules around what wines they can choose, and you can imagine the depth and breadth of their cellars in terms of the royal household and the government departments that look after that. So it's only, I mean, and so yeah, I mean, particularly back in 2006, having the wine served for the Queen. Was quite astonishing, and I think even took our breath away to think, crikey, of all the wines that they could potentially have chosen for that event, for that particular moment, for it to have been an English wine, but also Ridgeview was quite something. And then to have that, rather than it just being a one-off, it being repeated regularly, just I think as well gives the consistency of the quality of what we're doing over here. It just shows that, and that. The royal family are proud to get behind it and serve it to these very distinguished guests who are coming over, and perhaps, well aware of the wines that would normally be served at these sorts of receptions. So, it's absolutely been so important for our industry, but for Ridgeview too.